Well, if you're like me, then you are constantly on the hunt for the next best monitor. 165 hertz of pure glory. This monitor has a lot as we test out refresh rate, variable refresh rate, settings within the Xbox menu, gameplay, and there's probably going to be a few more things. So let's start this. So just a basic rundown. I did a full review on this guy. It's on the channel if you want to watch the intense breakdown that I did on this monitor. But as far as 165 hertz, 1 millisecond response rate monitor, this guy packs a lot of features like KVM if you're a PC user, and it is console ready, so it does use CEC or Consumer Electronic Control, along with being supported by the PS5, Xbox Series X, and of course what we have in front of us, which is the Xbox Series S. So it is going to be able to do that 1440p 120 hertz, and then of course the 1080p HDR 120 hertz, and we're going to dive in and test that out. And even though it is a bit of a higher price from some of the monitors out there, I can tell you, you will not be disappointed in any way if you buy this monitor. But don't take my word for it. Let's dive in and test out this monitor. So as always, we start our journey in the General tab underneath the Xbox menu settings. And within that, you have your TV and display options. If you have not actually gone through this menu yet, there's a great video on the channel that breaks down how to unlock 1440p 120 hertz, all the in-depth menus of this actual menu within the Xbox itself. That's going to be on the channel, so go check that out. Today, we're going to be doing a bit of a high-level overview here. But as you can see, I've got that 1440p 120 hertz available to me. And if I go into video modes, all it really took was unchecking allow 4K. How did I get to this point? It was actually pretty straightforward. I plugged in the display, and all I did was go over to video modes, and I unchecked that allow 4K. Now, I did check allow YCC 4.2.2, and I did have to check allow variable refresh rate. Now, some of you may ask, can it downscale 4K from the PS5? Can it downscale 4K from the Xbox? Well, yes, I have already answered that question, and I get it quite a bit. It will downscale 4K. It'll allow you to play 4K content on here and show it in a 1440p resolution, and you will get HDR on this monitor. However, what it will not allow is going to be that 120 hertz. So just beware, if you set up and you use that 4K option, you will not get 120 hertz on any game that you play. So as always, when I start using a monitor on any system, doesn't matter if it's console, PC, whatever, I go through and I calibrate based on that system. And the good news is, if you're not using HDR in-game, this monitor actually has access to a lot of menus for you to be able to calibrate your display. And worry not, if you are using HDR, there are some pro menu setups. I reviewed them in the full review of this monitor that are preset that work under HDR settings. So you can actually go through and calibrate even a little bit further than what most monitors will allow in HDR. That being said, the display calibrated very well. So first up, I did a little 4K HDR in Cold War, and it was pretty good. The fidelity was great. The color, the contrast was fantastic. I mean, if you look at this display, what you'll notice here is it's picking up a good amount of deep color. That purple you see in the background here, the texture of the bricks, the light versus the dark image quality, it's actually doing a good job. And the Series S itself, you know, it's rendering video fairly well. It's not fantastic, it's not PC grade, it's not an RTX 30 series, but it's pretty dang good, all things considered. Now, motion capability, I'm only running 60 hertz. Each interaction is a little bit different. So this one, the guy's a little further away, there's a smaller window for me to hit, but I'm still experiencing a little bit of ghosting. Even though I'm playing hardcore, I'm able to get the shot off. We can see that we just jumped, this guy's coming out of the spawn area, and he's walking down the stairs here, and it actually is very smooth. As I pause here, it looks fantastic. Making out good quality images as we go along. I couldn't be happier with 4K 60 hertz here, although I think 120 hertz will be better. So I turned off that allow 4K and I jumped in, I did a little 1440p 120 hertz capability here, and in Cold War it looks fantastic. I mean, the actual texture of the display, the greenery, the walls, it looks fantastic. this monitor performs really well under these scenarios. I mean, look at the color of the barrels there, that aqua with that rust color. You can really see that thing pop. So 1440p versus 4K, I don't think we're losing anything here. And in fact, we're probably gaining something because the Series S itself is not a powerhouse, and running 60 Hertz 4K is probably harder than running 1440p 120 Hertz. So a little fast-paced action here. I'm tracking down this team. Again, 1440p 120 Hertz. I throw a flash and I'm about to throw the C4 and this guy comes barreling out of the smoke there. And look at that, I take him down. But I'm gonna pause. 120 Hertz, here we are. We're making out his character extremely well. There's no ghosting, there's no image retention and tearing. Like, we're making out his character 100%. And even though he's really close and I'm not moving extremely fast, this is what I would hope would be the case in this scenario. And the monitor and the Series S handled it very well. Those two working together extremely well. All right, last interaction here in Cold War. This kind of speaks to both the refresh rate, but also the contrast of this monitor. And I want to show you something. I'm here in this interaction, I'm scoping out this guy who's standing in a doorway, and he's pretty far away. But I want to mention that this monitor is doing a fantastic job actually picking out his character. I can see movements from a fair distance, and it's not a washed out or a one-note style color on the display. You can actually make out the movement, make out the head, the body, and everything in this doorway, which couldn't be said for other monitors that I reviewed in the past. And with 32 inches of size, that's actually a lot to ask for a monitor that's only 1440p resolution. And I know that might sound kind of odd for some of you guys out there, but these monitors don't necessarily have all the advanced technologies that TVs do at larger sizes in order to keep and retain its contrast and brightness. So it's actually a very good thing to see a 32-inch doing this right now. So as we boot into Warzone here, we notice there is a bit of this haziness over the display, and this can be found on pretty much any game, but here you can see that the character is not great looking. The contrast kind of sucks. There's no real depth to the color. It's grainy, it's hazy, it doesn't look great. So I try to do my best at calibrating this out using the presets and actually going into the pro menus and different black level adjustments, and it does a fairly decent job. But I do have to warn you, it's not fantastic, but it is fully playable. And in fact, playing with the color temperature a bit, playing with that brightness level, that contrast level, I was able to actually mitigate a lot of the effects that I had due to the Xbox. There's been a bit of a debate about the haziness to Warzone if you're using 1440p and what it relates to. It's an issue with Warzone and the Xbox Series S or X. It's not the monitor's issue. I want to be very clear on that. It has nothing to do with this monitor because on PC, 1440p on Warzone looks fantastic. So testing this bad boy out in Warzone, this is what I know. I am usually a pretty dang good sniper, but in this scene here, because I can't really track this guy well enough due to that haziness, I'm missing on every single shot. That was 3 missed shots in a row. I normally don't do that bad, maybe 1 missed shot. But I tried my luck again over at the control center here. There's a guy peeking around on the rooftop and I got 1 bullet left. I'm thinking that's a straight headshot, but apparently it wasn't. And then I go to attack his buddy, crack the armor, but I want to go over that because as we look at this interaction, his buddy's running across the ground. I do have to say it's a little dark, not a lot of contrast here to be able to pop him off the background. It's more of like a blob moving across the screen. I just know that somebody I have to shoot at. So that's what I do. So 2-part interaction here. I'm down at these houses, I'm jumping back and forth, trying to search this guy down. This guy pops in through the window and I do a pretty dang good job of taking him out. Once again, that 120 Hertz of this monitor is keeping up, and everywhere I pause, I'm aimed down sights. Even as I crack his armor and he's moving and jumping around, I'm actually able to make out his character really well. Again though, the detail isn't the best, and it has more to do with this Warzone game than it does anything else. But motion-wise, it's actually keeping up. It's keeping up very, very well. So something I don't see talked about all that often on YouTube when it comes to reviews of monitors is how good content looks on these monitors. And they are HDR, they have good resolution displays, they have great lighting panels for what they are. So of course you would use them for content. If you're watching Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, YouTube, whatever it is, Blu-rays, DVDs, you want to know if this thing actually looks good. And I will say, I know plenty of people who buy a 32-inch monitor to be able to use for not only gaming, but content as well. So of course I go through my suite of tests on here just to show you the capability using the Series S and what I think of it. So 4K videos on YouTube look great. I mean, check out some of these videos here. We can see that the color really pops. I mean, the contrast and the clarity are fantastic, and we're not really seeing any blooming or anything up at the edges, and it's not crushing details. It's not over enhancing anything. You know, the green is very green and the red and the flowers looks very red. And we even go to some of our PC testing capabilities here. And what we see in this video with high saturation of colors, it handles it just like the PC did. So it tells me whether you're using console or PC, content looks fantastic on this. And then of course I am going to use the ratings.com pixel response rate test here. And it's actually doing really good on console. I mean, check this out. Here's YouTube doing a pixel response rate on this monitor, and teeny bit of ghosting here. But nothing really to be upset about. We are getting a full 120 hertz, like you can see at the top left of the screen. I mean, it's holding true to that high pixel response rate, that 1 millisecond pixel response rate, or somewhere in that ballpark. So of course I allow 4K, and I go into Disney Plus to play a little HDR content with 4K downscaled resolution, and I set up my menus, I do a bit of calibration, and I play a movie here. It's better than I expected, honestly. I didn't expect this to do as well. It's as if I was watching on one of my 4K TVs. Because I am a little bit closer, I can make out the detail pretty well. The pixel density is great. It has very accurate colors. It doesn't look funky, you know, and that's a benefit. That's a huge thing. If you look at some of the other budget monitors that I reviewed, like Pixio, even though I like that monitor, the saturation and color was off. You know, it just didn't seem right. You had to really calibrate it to get the color you wanted. And in here with this HDR capability, which within Disney Plus, it shows full HDR capability, it looks very good. And I would definitely say that this monitor is a beast when it comes to 4K HDR content on your console. I even have to say that the black level performance is pretty dang good. Seeing this in person is different than seeing it on screen. I have lights going on in the background. You can kind of pick up some of that glare off the screen. Seeing this in person is entirely different. This space scene right here says it all. It's getting depth and color in the background. It's got that orange and blue depth to it, but you're picking up all of these stars. They're bright, they're twinkling, and then you have that dead black of space. It just looks really good. This is a great scene to test any of your monitors on. And if it can hold water to this test, it's a good monitor for content. So I want to wrap up by playing a little Fortnite and let you know that we are getting the full 120 hertz capability, and variable refresh rate is on. I just want to show you the fidelity and the capability of this monitor when it comes to highly saturated games, just like this one. But we are going to wrap up by talking about the upsides and the downsides of this monitor and whether or not it should be on your list if you're a console gamer. So let's talk about the downsides. The downsides are going to be that the 120 hertz isn't fully capable on every single game out there, meaning that you are going to be paying a premium for a monitor that you may not get full capability out of, which kind of leads me to the first positive, which is going to be that if you are a dual user, PC user, and Xbox user, then this should absolutely be on your list. That 165 hertz, 1 millisecond response rate is fantastic. And just to kind of prove my point here, let's look at Fortnite. The fidelity is great. We're getting a locked 120 hertz. The motion capability is fantastic. I mean, I'm not losing any frames here. It's looking really good. Now, the other benefit is the fact that it's 32 inches, and you saw the 4K HDR content on Disney Plus and on YouTube, and it looked, I mean, amazing. I would use this as like a bedroom TV, let alone utilize dual purpose for both gaming and for content. And anyone who's got a small studio apartment or a small office and you want to have a dual purpose monitor, this is it. This is the one. And it's got a sweet look to it. Very, very nice to have that curve. It sucks you in. Now that does bring up another negative, which is the fact that it's $499, which is the cost of your console if you're using a Series X or a PS5. And honestly, I might say that the extra $100 you pay for something like the Gigabyte M28U is well worth it. The only problem there is that most 4K HDMI 2.1 monitors are sold out and will be for some time. So that's really it out of me, you guys. I thought this was a fantastic monitor for console, for the Series S and Series X. I think it's great. You get 1440p performance in most games, great performance in most games. And then that 1080p HDR, it's awesome. So I would definitely put this on my, top 2 to 3 monitors out there if budget wasn't a concern or you're a dual user. So as always, you guys, hey, I appreciate you if you're subscribed to the channel. Even if you're not, I do appreciate you. But if you're not, go to that homepage, hit subscribe right down here, like this video, share this video, and comment. We have a Facebook group called Only Nerds by Techcessory. If you want to talk long form, go check out that Facebook group. I'm in there. We've got a lot of people in there, admins, things like that, that'll have a discussion with you. So without further ado, you guys, I'll catch you in the next video.